Hello, hello, and good afternoon or good morning. Welcome back to the She Mind. This is Tirzah Elise, the CEO and founder of She Exclusive, and we are once again airing from, well, cross continents. I'm here in Spain in the not so sunny little beach city of Denia, and I am really honored to introduce Liz Terry. She is wiring in, or what is it called?
Neuro-Linguistic Programming.
No,
Positive intelligence.
She's wiring in from Jamaica, and is a beautiful new connection in our community, and we're really honored to have her here. Her skills are in neuro-linguistic programming, and she is a
Positive intelligence coach.
Positive intelligence coach. Welcome,
Yes.
Liz.
Yes, Tirzah, thank you so much for having me this morning. And I must say that it's quite a bright blue sky I'm seeing outside on this side of the world.
Wonderful.
And we've had some rain in the recent days. And so the temperature, instead of being about 90 degrees or more, it's dropped a bit, and I'm beginning to feel like Christmas.
Oh, that's nice. Well, over here, we're actually sitting on the tail end of the wake of some huge floods and storms in Valencia.
Yes.
And it's been devastating to see the impact that it's had on so many people. So, of course, this morning I'm practicing a lot of gratitude and, once again, being grateful for the safety that I am in today. And I hope any of you listeners out there who are taking time to join us on the podcast today will take a few minutes of gratitude as well, because we never know what can happen, and life is so fleeting. So, well done.
Absolutely true. And I mean, just to say that we've had our own share of rains on this side too. We had a terrible storm in early July. And we have been sort of ducking between the raindrops, so to speak, because there have been a lot of storms that have been passing this way recently. And so I think it's just, part of the global phenomenon.
It is. And I wish you, the universe, to bring you wellness.
Yes.
So just to remind listeners, we are here for 30 minutes, and we focus on this podcast, on the She Mind, on women empowerment. We support women who are entrepreneurs, who are existing powerful business women, or those who have had that life but are looking at a change or going through a change in their life. We all have a host of challenges that we juggle every day. But here at the She Mind, we focus on the skills we need to be the CEO of our life, and really sitting within our business mindset and our skills around empowering ourselves in our business life, or that in our health and wellness life. And I believe our conversation today is going to dance between the two, which is really empowering, because in our pre-conversation, Liz and I have been talking about the sort of challenges that women are still in today's world facing, both in business and in sort of, expectations of who we are as women. Do you want to share with me a little on what you were saying at the start of our conversation? And I think that's going to springboard us into our next.
Yeah, great. Yes, Tirzah. I mean, when I look around here in Jamaica, and I see my fellow CEOs, I get a sense of, compassion, because as an older entrepreneur, I have been through the stages of having young children. I was separated and divorced with 2 young ones quite early on, and having my own business and then segueing back into corporate. It's a tough journey. And one of the things that we were talking about was this label that I hear it being called now, called maternal penalty. So women do suffer from this, some of it is self-imposed and some of it is societally imposed, that we have to juggle these 2 roles, sometimes by ourselves. And if we don't, we're not lucky or fortunate enough to have a partner who is willing to share those responsibilities, then you carry these, really heavy burdens on your shoulders. And it's really hard. It's
Yes.
really, really difficult. And you end up exhausted. You end up feeling less than, and perhaps not really. I mean, I think work-life balance is, it's never attainable, really. I think we have to strive for harmony, see how we
Yes.
can harmonize the two. And so, we need the tools. And a lot of women and leaders generally just don't have the skill sets to be able to manage with that, plus all on top of it, all the other uncertainties that we're facing now as a global population. So
Very, very
yeah.
true. And I'm sure anyone listening will resonate with that. And I think it's important for me, as in hearing what you're saying, I'm thinking back to kind of where those pressures have come from. And it's really vital for me in my experience, but also for those that I coach and lead, to go back to where that sort of stopgap happened and identify where those messagings have come from, so that we can start to target those. For example, for me, it was, from parental messaging, from religious messaging, from, what was expected of me from my school and surroundings and parents. I came from a very rigid background around subservience and around giving to others. And, you're happy and well if you put yourself last, and, you need to be perfect like God is perfect. And even though now I know these things not to be true, it doesn't mean that they're not wired into my subconscious mind, right? So that continual review of my inner talk has been something that's been really powerful for me and important to master and to take time for, so that I can not be perhaps squashed under what we then start to just do and do and do, because it's wired in who we are. Am I making any sense?
Yes. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I mean, as you were speaking, I was relating to all the messaging that I got when I was growing up, because I was the youngest. We call the youngest here wash belly. In other words, you're washing out at the end. That's it. And so my parents were very middle class. And my father came from a background where he left primary school to go and work to help support his mother. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom eventually when she had children. And so this concept of even me going to university was so foreign. It was foreign to me because it wasn't something that I had been programmed into.
Yes.
And they didn't have that messaging. And fortunately, I had my elder sister, and she was the one who was like, "No, you got to go to university." And that's how I got there,
Yeah.
And so there's so many messages that we get from society, from our parents, from, as you mentioned, the church or religious background, that sort of sets that this is who you are.
That's
And
right.
these are the boundaries that you need to respect and keep within.
Yeah.
And they are unconscious. And even though intellectually we say, yeah, I don't agree, it doesn't make any sense, I'm going to, break these, we literally have to reprogram.
We do. So for the listeners now, let's really get into the depths of this reprogramming. Give me some of the science around it in what you sort of are skilled to lecture on. And then maybe we can move into the real practical steps. Go ahead. Tell us, so what does that look like? What is that reprogramming? What's the theory around that? How does that work? How do we have control over our brain?
Right. So, I mean, I kind of give it a high level overview, right?
Of course.
So, I mean, we have billions, literally billions of neural connections that are possible in our brain.
That's right.
And, we've heard the saying, oh, we're only using 10%. And I think this is really what it probably refers to, because that 10% is what is already fired and wired into our psyche. And so therefore, we do have the potential to make other connections. If you think of it, a stroke victim, I've lost the ability to move my arm. And they can help you through rehabilitation, because those wires that were fired together are no longer existent. They've kind of burnt out like a burnt out circuit. And so your brain has to now find different ways to connect. And
Yeah.
the wonderful thing is that we can do that. And so with rehabilitation, then this is often what happens, that there are new connections made, and then I can learn to use my arm again. And it's the same thing with our mental abilities or any other behaviors that we want to change.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing is that we have to recognize, first of all, what we're doing. And
Yeah.
so I come back to emotional intelligence. The first pillar of emotional intelligence is self-awareness.
Yeah.
And until we are recognizing that, hey, this is what I'm doing. You know, I heard you talk about self-talk. Some people just know that there's this chatter, but they're not aware of what's going on. What's that dialogue? What's the messaging that my brain is sending to me all the time? And so it's self-awareness. What am I doing? How am I self-sabotaging? Because when I find that out, then I have the capability to make changes.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to want to make the change as well. That's another key,
100%.
because it doesn't, you know, I've had clients that says, Liz, you know, can you just wave a magic wand and just fix it for me? I literally had a client that said that.
Wow.
And I'm like, darling, I wish I could.
And this, I was going to pick up on that. It's, you know, so much to unpack there, but I think a really big key is recognizing perhaps the fear that people go through. You know, they're stuck, they want something different, but it's scary to go into something new. And recognizing what the brain is going through when it learns something new, it knows that it has to work hard. And that immediately gives you that sense of trepidation, like, oh God, do I have to go through this again? Oh, I'd rather just stay in my comfort zone. And this is why many of us remain in situations that actually isn't our best life. You know, it isn't everything we could be, but we want it. Like your client, can you just wave a magic wand? It's because the brain is saying, oh my God, do we actually have to climb this new mountain? Do we have to detach from one and rewire to another? I saw a most amazing video clip years ago when I used to lecture on the neuroscience of learning for teachers. And there was an analogy made about new learning, like building a bridge. And first of all, you have to throw that rope across the ravine and make the hook stick somewhere. And sometimes that can take 100 tries. And after the first 2 or 3, if you don't really have, like you said, the want or the intrinsic motivation to keep throwing that rope until it sticks, sometimes it dies away. You know, so that's where the brain kind of goes, oh my God, this is too scary. No, I can't do this.
Yes, that's right. And we can very much relate to that. You know, this idea that the unconscious mind and our, let's call it the unconscious mind, always wants to conserve our energy.
Yes.
That's part of the function of the unconscious mind. And obviously this efforting to make the change is going against that.
Yes.
And so you have to have, and this is the other piece of it that I think is so vital. You have to have a vision.
Yes.
You know, we are motivated either by pain or pleasure. And for the most of us, even though we may not want to admit it, that pain is really what pushes us. If you think of, you know, your life, or even what the world is going through, it's the pain. When you reach a point that, you know, I'm at the bottom and the only place to go from here is up, that's when it happens, you know.
That's right. That's right. That's
and
so true.
But on the other side, for it to be sustainable, you have to have that vision that pulls you. I think it was Reverend Michael Beckwith that said this, you know, pain pushes until vision pulls. Yeah. And so that is an important part of the work that I do.
Very
with people.
Beautiful. I think that's worth repeating.
Yeah, pain pushes until
vision pulls. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I go back with.
I say this a lot too in the courses and work I do around vision setting. And I believe that sometimes we, as professionals, as women, we set a lot of energy. We put a lot of energy into vision setting for everyone else and everything around us, whether it's our work, whether it's our children, our friends. We want to have excellence everywhere. We set visions for our excellence here, there, and everywhere. And I think sometimes we forget ourselves in this whole journey. And, you know, we're the ones pushing the vision, the perfection and perfectness for everyone else. And then sometimes we find ourselves empty, or we even just plain forget that we need to do that for ourselves. You know, what vision do I want for my best life? And many years, many of us have spent time saying, what am I going to do to be the best of whatever? What do I need to be in order to be this for my career, my family, my job? I rarely have heard people say, how do I want to live my best life? You know, how is that for me? So that if I've got that for me, then I can give excellence everywhere else. And that has to be rooted in that vision setting, isn't it? And going back to our real clear statements to our brain, teaching our brain what it needs to know to give us that life, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you know, this idea, women are nurturers.
Yes.
And so we nurture everyone else and leave ourselves last. And many of my clients have forgotten their joy. You know, you can say, I set a vision, I set a purpose, but is it influenced by what other people's expectations are of you? Or is it really something that you want for yourself?
That is so true.
And because that programming is so strong, often it is driven by what everyone else wants. And that time, you know, taking that time to really go within and rediscover yourself. And what is it that, you know, I want to bring to the world?
Yes. It's just so true and so beautiful. And when we've allowed other people to influence that state of us and what we give our energies to, then we've taught our brain what it should do for our personalities and our bodies. And therefore we create this version of ourselves that in fact has been very influenced by other people. And even if we find joy in it, it may not be the highest level of joy or actualization that we deserve. So that's where sometimes then we find ourselves dipping lower, you know, and feeling that we're a little bit without or not in our best state or place.
Absolutely.
That's really powerful, really beautiful. Sorry, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I was just remembering, sometimes I forget that I'm also a passion test facilitator. And that was so helpful to me because it helped me to rediscover my passions. And at the time I was working with an organization in project management. And that was giving me a certain sense of you know, achievement and some amount of pleasure, but it had distanced me from what I truly enjoy, which is training and coaching and helping people to maximize their potential. And that course that I did to become a facilitator forced me to re-examine my priorities, my life, my joys. And I said, oh my God, I need to get back into training. And I need to get back into coaching. And that's what I really, really, really love. And so that, you know, what you said a while ago really resonated with me because a lot of us have lost sight of that. We've lost touch with it. And being able to really reconnect with it is an important part of finding that motivation, that inspiration that keeps you going in difficult times.
So true. I can't underline everything you said enough. There's so much beauty in that. And the exact same thing happened to me. Exact same story. You know, I grew up thinking I was an educator because of various situations that happened in my life. And I love educating children. I love teaching children. It's beautiful. And then I went into teaching adults and coaching and mentoring teachers to be better teachers in the classroom. And that's where I really found my passion and purpose. But then moving countries and moving to Spain, I went, oh, well, I'm an educator, so I'll open a school and I'll open an education establishment. And what I did was I went back into what I knew about myself rather than sticking with what was my passion, which is actually coaching and mentoring and educating professionals. And I had a blip in my sort of focus and drive because I wasn't aligning my purpose with my passion. And that's a big part of what I offer in training too, because if you don't get that right, if that balance is not aligned, you'll find yourself fighting battles that take up time and energy and not are fulfilling you to its highest level.
Yeah,
So,
you're going after the wrong things, you know.
that's it.
In NLP, we have a framework with a whole set of questions that really helps you to become clear about that goal, you know, arising out of your vision that you're setting for yourself. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. If we could alert any listeners to a link below on some questions to ask themselves, that would be really useful.
Yeah,
Really.
I'll send it to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So within those questions, so let's say we've taken this questionnaire and now we've identified areas that we want to change. What are some key things that we should start doing? Some strategies that we could start to take on board that would help us to rewire those neural pathways that have been so long embedded?
Right. So I think one of the first things that we need to do, I've already said, which is becoming aware.
Yes.
Being very, very clear on what it is that you are doing, what is it you're thinking, what is it you're feeling. And the feeling part is often missed. And it's so important because, of course, you know, we are vibrational beings and our thoughts affect our feelings, and our feelings obviously affect our vibrational signature. So it's important that we examine what space we are in.
Yes.
And in order to do that, one of the things that certainly positive intelligence teaches is, I call it mindfulness techniques that help you to become fully aware in the moment. Most of the time, you know, it said 90% of the time, we're either thinking old thoughts of yesterday or last year or whatever about the past, or we are worrying about the future. And a lot of the time is not spent really being very present.
Focus on the present.
No, so there are things that we are missing. And our sensory acuity to what's really happening, even with ourselves, first of all, but in our relationships, you know, where am I missing the mark? Because we're just not paying attention. So mindfulness, I think, is an important piece that we can integrate into our daily activities, as different from meditation. Meditation has its place, but mindfulness is more about bringing our mind down back to being very, very fully present. And we have some exercises that, you know, help you to do that and do it easily in your day. You know, talking about 1-minute exercises just to bring yourself back. I think one of the other pieces that is necessary is rediscovering your joy and passion. You know, what is it that I can do that is going to bring me? And it could be something quite trivial, you know.
Yes.
Maybe it's that, you know, I haven't read a novel in a long time. I've been just reading textbooks, or I just haven't made the time to read. That's right. I just haven't had the time. And the other day I did pick up a book, and it was just amazing because as a child I used to love to read a lot. And obviously I wasn't reading, you know, self-help books at that point. And you sort of get lost in that, you know, moment, and you become so absorbed in the book, which oftentimes, if we have become super in our heads, then this is a good way to get out of ourselves.
Yes.
Another way is giving back.
Yes.
You know, doing something for other people. And I find that often it's something that we have it intellectually that we'd like to do, but until you actually do it, you don't feel the power of it.
That's right. That's very true. And a lot of times too, like linking with our creative side, that really ignites a lot of mindfulness element, doesn't it?
That's right.
Or putting some music on, even if it's just sitting and listening to your favorite music.
Baking or cooking. Yes.
I was, you know, my plan this year is to relaunch painting. I used to love painting. I used to paint flowers with acrylics. So it's one of my goals. And I think that I need a little bit more mindfulness time, even if it's, you know, a good 20 minutes of just
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it turns out like. I don't think I'm going to
Yes.
be Monet or anything.
But it brings you joy. And
yes, it brings me joy, and it's that real sort of recenteredness time
that's
with
right.
mindfulness.
That's right. What mindfulness does, when you integrate it into, maybe there's something that's triggered you and you recognize it. When you integrate it at that point, in NLP, we have a term for that. It's called pattern interrupt.
Nice.
And so when you interrupt the pattern as it's beginning, that's the best time to do it, because once it's triggered, and it's like a snowball running downhill, you can't stop it. So if you recognize it and immediately say, okay, let me do a PQ rep at this point. Let me do a little exercise of 90 seconds just to change my direction. And you find that over time, if you continue to do that, that builds a new response to the situation.
So let's take an example. So let's say, for example, someone finds themselves doing more at work than they believe they should, right? So that's really getting them down. It's making them feel less of themselves. They don't know how to say no.
Right.
And they're working from home. So they have the capacity to tell their brain, I'm going to say no at least 3 times this week when I feel intrinsically it's not right for me. And when they do, or they feel they want to say no, but they're struggling because of the wired in pathway,
right?
Then maybe they could say, okay, I'm going to take a break. What did you call it? A pattern break.
Yeah, a pattern interrupt.
And I'm going to go and I'm going to do something mindful. I'm going to listen to some music, or I'm going to go on a little walk, and then I'm going to make my decision. Am I on the right track in regard to how to make that practical?
Yes,
for someone?
absolutely. And as I said, it can be something as short as, okay, at this moment, I'm going to stop. I'm going to breathe. Would you like me to give a demonstration?
Sure, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Okay. All right. So just sit up straight, nice in here, or if you're standing, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And with your feet flat on the ground, and just take 3 deep centering breaths with me. And exhale, and another. And exhale, one more time. And exhale. And as you're sitting or standing, just feel the weight of your body, either on your chair or on the floor through your feet. Just become aware of the sensation of your weight and the points at which your weight is resting. And in that position, just see if you can find within your shoes or your bare feet all 10 of your beautiful little toes. Each and every one of them. See if you can find them separately. Listen to the farthest away noises that you can hear. Might be the sound of car or dog barking, birds. And then come closer and listen to the closest sounds that you can hear. Maybe the rustle of the leaves or fan. And just bring your thumb and your forefinger together with such acute attention that you can feel every ridge on both of your fingers. And bring all 10 of your fingers together and do the same thing. Every ridge. And then rub your hands together. Feel your palms touching. What's the temperature of your palms? Are they warm? Are they dry? Or damp? And take another deep breath. As you breathe in, just notice the temperature of the air as it goes through your nostrils. and the temperature as you exhale. And just bring your attention back into the room and open your eyes.
Wow, that was very powerful. So is that what you would call a pattern break that people can take?
Yes, and specifically from positive intelligence, that's a positive intelligence rep, or a PQ rep, as we call it. And really it's using the power of your senses to bring you into the present moment. Out of your head.
It certainly did that. It really did that. Yes, and I hope you listeners and observers who are watching this joined in and feel the same.
I hope so. We can try it afterwards.
Put in the comments below, anyone, what you felt when you were going through that, because that for me was powerful. I really felt all the places you told me to feel.
Absolutely.
And brings about a little bit of a tingling. The tingling is almost a relaxation of the body, isn't it?
Yes, and often we don't even recognize how tense we are.
Yeah.
You know? So you mentioned pattern interrupt, and yes, what that does is interrupt that habitual pattern. So you're feeling triggered. There's a situation where you're taking on too much. You might have a pleaser tendency, as a saboteur, as we call it in positive intelligence. And a pleaser avoids, conflict, and obviously needs approval and wants to ensure that, other people are feeling pleased with them.
Yes.
And that's where we tend to self-sabotage, because then that's often to the detriment of our own well-being and our health. So doing that rep at that moment continuously, obviously not just once, right? This has to become something that is habitual. You'll find that your response mechanism changes and you begin to connect to another side of your brain, which is the sage, where you will find more of your creativity, your ability to navigate life by your values instead of just, going on your programming, being more empathetic, both to yourself, importantly, if you're a pleaser, first, and then to others. So
really
things like that.
That's beautiful. That was a really powerful example there. And I want to pick up on what you said about, being a pleaser. I think a lot of women tend to do that. But that really vital point that you just said is something I talk about all the time. Let's turn that sort of sabotage that we have into a skill of taking time to please ourselves. But it is a rewiring of the brain, because I know for me personally, and many people I've spoken to, they say, no, we were told that if you put yourself first, that's selfish. That's self-absorbed. And we put sort of negative words on that. But actually, another expert told Oprah Winfrey one day in a video I watched, this selfishness is not a thing. It's called self-full. If you're full, then you can overflow onto others. And it's actually selfish not to give time to yourself for that self-nurturing. Oh, have you frozen? Oh no, I hope. Well, I'll just continue. Hopefully she comes back. But there was a statement saying that it's actually more selfish to not give to yourself, because then you have nothing left to give to others. And then you become sort of empty in the way that you don't have anything left to give, and therefore other people can't get the best out of you either. I'm aware that our beautiful Liz Terry has frozen. I hope that something in Jamaica hasn't caused her to fall out. I'm going to give it a few more moments, but I would urge you as listeners here to put in the chat down below what you feel about this very empowering talk and the strategies that we've been coming up with. And while we're not having Liz, here I am. I'm going to just sum this up and end it with some really key strategies that I offer my clients. And one of them is inner self-talk. Identify what you're currently telling yourself that's keeping you in an area that you're not happy with, that's making you do things or be something that you're not happy with, that's not empowering you. Right? Oh, here she's back. Oh, yay. I was just offering a few strategies to the listeners just in case. And one of them that I was saying was, well, when you cut out, I was talking about being self-full and overflowing onto others. And in fact, the theory says it's even more selfish to be giving of yourself on an empty cup, because soon you're going to just be depleted and there's nothing left then to give to anyone else.
Yeah.
So
and resentment sets in.
Well, of course. And then worse yet, you're expecting people to notice all that you're giving. And when they don't, then you feel that no one notices you, or no one really cares or wants you around. And, you know, that just becomes negative, and then the spiral goes downward and downward. So in wanting to change that, how do we do it? I'll just finish the one I started, and it links to what we were saying, but it's actually, whether it's a physical writing out or a stating it to yourself in the mirror, state the wording that's in your brain. Talk it out. You know, write out that sort of self-belief that you have. You know, I need to give all of my energies and time to others, and when their needs are met, then I can turn to myself. Write it out. And when you say it to yourself again, or you read it back, you'll realize how daft it sounds. And then you'll be able to then give yourself an alternative belief, something empowering. You know, I'm going to make sure that 30 minutes each day focus on my well-being so that I am full enough to give to others, or whatever it might be that you've set yourself in your vision or your goal. Yeah. Or even more detailed, you know, I'm not good enough to have the love that I really wish. I'll just settle for the relationships that seem to come my way. You know, when you read that back, you can see, holy moly, that can't be true. Right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think things are more amplified when they just sit within our brain. The minute we put the words on it and put it out there, we can almost take a pin and pop a balloon in what is so huge and real. And you know, right?
Yes, absolutely agree. I mean, I was thinking about psychotherapy. I mean, a lot of psychotherapy is about speaking it out. And often the psychologist or the psychiatrist would sit there and listen. And it is cathartic. It's, you know, cathartic. Yes. Actually saying it, you know. And you sort of look at it more objectively.
Yes. Exactly.
Because when it's here, it's very subjective in your mind, and you tend to go over and over it. So, yeah, being able to notice it and say it out loud or write it, very important. Bring it to your attention.
Really good. Wonderful. Any last strategies that you feel are really burning within you to end with?
Right. Well, I mean, I think I don't want to sort of crowd out and get into too deep things, but this idea of recognizing your beliefs you mentioned, and being able to write them all out. What is limiting me?
Yes.
What is it that I feel about myself that is holding me back?
Yeah.
And then strategizing. Okay, so where is it I want to go to? One of the things that, in terms of, you know, people use affirmations. We haven't actually talked about that. And I say it's important. And it doesn't always fix the problem, because it's very polarizing. Because sometimes you say, okay, so this is how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling very hurt and disappointed. I'm going to make an affirmation that says, aha, now I am joyful and fulfilled. You know, there's a huge distance between that. You can't bridge that. So you have to be able to sort of work your way up, because we talked about, you know, our vibration and how we're feeling. So if you're feeling really, really down, then what's the next step up that could make you feel just that little bit better? Could it be something like, you know, every day I'm beginning to let go more and more of that hurtful feeling that I had. I'm embracing more forgiveness. That's an easier thing to hold on to.
Yes.
because those things are really, really distant. I just wanted to mention that,
beautiful.
because I think a lot of people do use affirmations.
And that links a lot with the sort of delayed gratification that the brain really needs in order to embed that new learning, right? If you jump straight to the amazing positive, it's almost like it feels good for 30 seconds, but then you get this low, like, oh God, well, that didn't work. You know, and the brain kind of gives up, or it dies, that new attempt dies away.
That's it. And toxic positivity is a thing, you know, and that's not what you want. You want to be able to recognize your feelings. I have a saying that says, you know, you can't release it till you feel it.
Yeah, it's very true. Very beautiful. Well, I mean, I have just taken so much away from today, and the amount that we have jived back and forth on our shared beliefs has been really empowering for me.
Yes,
and
I've enjoyed it.
Meditation, or the little mindfulness exercise that we did together, was really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
And just to sum up with the listeners, you may find yourself in a place where you're feeling stuck. Maybe you are overwhelmed with a new phase of your life that you're in or that you're going through, and you don't see the next road. Set your vision, but first realign with yourself, where you're at, where you want to be. Clearly identify what's holding you back, and then start to tap into some of these strategies we've talked about. Breaking the patterns, using mindfulness, understanding your internal dialogue and rhetoric that's happening in your mind, and write it out. Look back at it and bring your unconscious mind into your conscious mind and look at what it actually is telling you, so that we can rewrite our brain and rewrite our reality. I really hope you found it useful. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Liz Terry, who's woken up extra early to join us on the other side of the world. And just your time, your energy, and your beauty is infectious. Thank you for bringing.
Thank you so much, Tirzah, for having me. It's been a joy to be here, and I look forward to sharing my ebook. I'll send the link.
Wonderful. Yes, we'll put that on the link below.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the recording. And I just want to say goodbye to you, listeners, and I will see you in the next podcast. Right. I put this here. Oh, I think I have stopped.